Welcome everybody to this second day of the e-conference organized by AFSIA about green hydrogen in Africa. We had a first day yesterday with some absolutely amazing speakers giving a global overview of the latest hydrogen and green hydrogen trends. We also had like a deep dive on technical aspects of green hydrogen in Africa. And then also an overview of the agenda of Germany with regards to green hydrogen partnerships in Africa. And today we are going to continue this conversation, but with a slightly different angle. I will explain all of today's program in a few moments, but before this, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, just a very brief word about AFSIA. AFSIA is the Africa Solar Industry Association. We are mostly a information platform, knowledge platform for everything solar happening in Africa. We organize events like today, we write some reports. We also centralize news through our different platforms. The idea is really to give easy access to information to anybody, professionals and non-professionals, to actually access information and knowledge about solar energy. And then on top of this, we also provide some additional services to our members companies to help them in being more successful in their business. Today's conference, as I said, is the second day of the Green Hydrogen in Africa e-conference. We will start with a keynote speech by Vincent Oldenbroek, Secretary General of the African Hydrogen Partnership, talking about the challenges, but also the opportunities and the leapfrogging that is possible for green hydrogen in Africa. His keynote speech will be followed by a panel discussion focusing on economic considerations of green hydrogen in Africa. Yesterday, we focused more on the technical aspects. Today will be more on the economic aspects. And then finally, we will have a presentation, dedicated presentation on a very specific technology, which is making use of hydrogen and finds great applications in Africa, but also around the world. Finally, many of us are used to webinars and Zoom nowadays, but just one little detail here. If you want your question to be addressed properly, please make sure to submit it through the Q&A button. Okay, you can submit a question anytime. We will do our best to address them. And if we don't have time to address your question, we will make sure to share those questions with our panelists, and we will do our best to address them offline. If you do use the chat option, chat is great for chatting with other listeners, to say hi, to connect and network, but don't submit your questions there because we will not be able to track them and we will not be able to address them. Moving on to today's program, because this is what you are connecting for. I'm very, very happy to welcome Vincent Oldenbroek. For those of you who were connecting with us yesterday, you're already familiar with Vincent. Vincent is the Secretary General of the African Hydrogen Partnership, which is a recently created association to handle, as the name says, all the topics around hydrogen in Africa. Vincent is quite experienced in the field of hydrogen and fuel cell and mobility since he has been working in this field for more than 10 years. He's currently finishing his PhD specifically on hydrogen, fuel cell electric vehicles and vehicle-to-grid technologies. And so it's my real pleasure to welcome him today. Thanks, Vincent, for accepting the invitation. And yes, without further waiting, over to you.
Thanks a lot, John. Also a pleasure to contribute to this webinar and also the opportunity to work with an already more established association as AFSIA. Also, without enough green electricity, no green hydrogen, and I think a lot of solar is needed to make large amounts of green hydrogen. So thanks again. I'm not sure if you gave over the controls.
I did, yes. Can you?
Good. So then I can start clicking. Let me try. Yes, so it's popping up. Yes, today at the second day, indeed what John already said, challenges, but also really leapfrogging, and with challenges, always opportunities come. So let's look a bit deeper into that. Here, just a short overview of the topics, mostly for the recording afterwards. So let's go straight to just shortly, what is the African Hydrogen Partnership? John already said it a bit. The initiative has been around since beginning of 2019, but just last year, November, we got incorporated as an official association in and for Africa. And since mid-February, we are open for members. As you could see on the previous slide, I'm not sure. The stakeholders, what kind of groups we're in contact with is government, industry, finance, and large end consumers. The division of the association, of the newly established association, is establishing hydrogen economies in Africa, with a strong focus on really promoting and accelerating green hydrogen, improving access to clean energy, but also mobility, which is a part of the hydrogen economy, and of course treatment of political, legal, and tax issues on a pan-African basis. Go to the next. Yes. Just a last note on the association, who can become a member. Only organizations. We have 3 different groupings serving the specific needs of these 3: industry, university, research, and also other associations, either national hydrogen associations, but also renewables, maritime, transports, and organizations both registered in Africa as outside Africa can join. Since November, since we opened up for membership, there's still a discount available. Yeah, let's look to these opportunities. Often green hydrogen economies in Africa are talked about exporting hydrogen, but I would like to make a clear distinguishment. Domestic, replacing the import of fossil fuels, fertilizers, chemicals, or export. Think about, yeah, really exporting hydrogen or ammonia, but also even CO2-free steel. And here I also would like to quote the Asian Development Bank and the UNIDO, who already stated developing countries would be the big winners from a hydrogen economy. And next click, I'm waiting. And I also would always like to state that actually all African countries, which are more than 50, could benefit from this hydrogen technology. I mean, just replacing the import would already a great benefit for many African countries. Some very renewable rich, which also have a low consumption themselves, could actually even export hydrogen, derived chemicals, products. But also another side of the story is, and I think that holds for all renewable technologies, quite some minerals are needed. So even though if it's not a country with a lot of renewable sources, often a lot of minerals are there. And even setting up a value chain around those minerals in Africa could also benefit a lot of African countries. So I always say there's something in it for every country. And I think also that those opportunities should be really grasped. And of course, a lot of talk about exporting hydrogen. And I think green hydrogen and all its derivatives really have an opportunity to decarbonize Africa itself, but of course also the rest of the world. Here you see an image from the International Energy Agency, where in red the cost of hydrogen made from combined solar and onshore wind, where red is a low cost and blue is a higher cost. And of course, you see a red dot in the Himalaya, but this is more theoretical potential. So neglect that. I mean, solar panels and pipelines on the Himalaya is quite difficult. But let's focus on Africa. And you see there's really big red areas around Africa, which means very low cost hydrogen could be made and also exported, not only just via pipelines to Europe, but also towards Asia. I think Africa faces more or less all continents, so via the sea, more or less all other continents can be reached. And Africa has all these resources to make this happen. An abundance of renewables, minerals, PGMs, platinum group metals. Also, don't forget space and also greenfield opportunities. Often it's easier to make something new on something where there's not yet any development than replacing something old. Chance to have new domestic and export markets, and also a young population who is really keen on new technologies, renewable technologies to really do this. So Africa has it all. Of course, I mean, there are some challenges, but as said, always with challenges come opportunities. This graph, I would just say to the viewers, just focus on the yellow and the green bars. The yellow bars are the amount of export of import for the continent of Africa. So yellow is import and green is export. So you see often there's more import than export, which means there's what they call a negative trade balance. So the more positive the trade balance, the better, simply said, for the economy. So what a lot of, I mean, this is an Africa average. So there might be African countries who really deviate from this trend, but on average, this is the case for Africa. At the same time, also, if you look worldwide, unemployment in some African countries is also quite a challenge, um, and really has to be addressed. At the same time, we see from a social point of view, population are growing, so there's still a continuous need of more jobs. Also, unfortunately, still in some African countries, there's still a quite large amount of the population suffering poverty. At the same time, also when we look to global warming, which happens on average worldwide, there's even a higher temperature rise in certain African countries. Whereas at the same time, we also see, and here comes the leapfrogging in, who does emit the most CO2 globally? That's not Africa. So instead of facilitating the growth with further fossil fuels, why not leapfrog that straight into renewables? Solar, wind, and then make hydrogen and use that in wherever it makes sense, and this can be done. So this really offers great opportunities. First, let's look back to the challenge of the economic side, a better trade balance with hydrogen. This is just an example from Tanzania, the exports in 2017 with more than 5 billion US dollars. 29%, $1.5 billion was coming from gold, so earnings from exporting of gold. At the same time, if we look to the import side, we see that around a value of $8.3 billion was imported, where a large chunk, 17%, came from import of refined petroleums. That means petrol and diesel. And you see also quite some machinery which was using this fuels was imported. And there was a trade deficit of 3 billion. So actually, if you make this connection, you could say, hey, did the export of gold now finance the import of fossil fuel, which then of course is burned and also causes more CO2. So could this not be done better? And that's where I fully believe hydrogen can play a big role. Just taking here now an extreme example with the same calculation, if we avoid all the import of petrol and diesel and refined petroleums, so make that to zero, but fully produce the hydrogen in the country. If we have a lower imports, and we can halve the trade deficit from 3 billion to 1.5 billion. At the same time, you see also the square around cars and tractors and machinery, and that comes to the next slide. Here you see this global picture shows you how much cars are owned per 1,000 inhabitants, if I'm correct. And you see the trend in red that in general African populations own relatively little cars in compared to many other continents. So this is really a growing market, and instead of importing those cars, both battery cars and fuel cell cars could be made with the African minerals on the African continent for the African people, and using the hydrogen also generated in Africa. So this is really a big market which could be addressed fully by African resources. And again, that would create more tax revenues, more jobs, and actually solve the aforementioned problems for a great extent, of course. I mean, there are many ways, of course. So this would result in social and fairer international wealth distribution. See here the picture of the world economy. So that could be redistributed a bit fairer. And of course, I mean, the added benefit is that all this technology, if you start with green hydrogen, is fully clean, and makes also a cleaner environment. So there are a lot of challenges, but at the same time, all the resources are there to leapfrog certain things and also to grasp those opportunities. These two pictures, the maps of Africa. On the left, you see the major ports of Africa, with all kinds of shipping routes. The image is definitely not exclusive, fully complete, but it just gives a general picture. And on the right, you see some major trading routes over land in Africa. So a lot of people always ask us, okay, what are now regions the coming years where hydrogen really could kickstart already in Africa? Apart from that, all countries have great opportunities. So if we look we have here another map of Africa with the circles. You see the projections of mega cities the coming decades. So there are quite some cities who really go beyond 10 million, beyond 20 million inhabitants, and most of those cities are also port cities. So if you think back of the previous map and this map, you see, and also you see what's happening globally around the world, there would be a great opportunity to create full hydrogen ecosystems around metro ports, for metropoles, big cities, ports, mining centers, trading hubs and routes, and mostly these all overlap. And if you just look here to the map of Africa and how the list says, that's definitely not exclusive, but from north to south, you could think of course, Morocco, great potential, Egypt, Nigeria, Ghana region, a lot of people. Nigeria, the biggest population in Africa. Ethiopia, Djibouti region, a lot of trade between the port of Djibouti and Addis Ababa. The whole region of Tanzania, Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, port of Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, a lot of trade going on that route. And then we have more or less the whole southern hub from South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, DRC, a lot of trading in minerals coming from the copper belt from the DRC, of course, South Africa itself, port of Durban, extremely renewable rich Namibia. I think these areas have great potential. As said, again, all African countries have great opportunities, but as at least these regions of a unique set, which could even catalyze quite quickly if all the right ingredients are linked together. Also, sectors, often people ask, okay, which sectors could we now come first? And this list is not just a personal view, but it really comes from requests we're getting into the African Hydrogen Partnership. And first, I think is really critical backup power, always together with batteries and solar, but here now with hydrogen and fuel cells to eliminate the backup diesel generator. I think then of applications such as telecom towers, you see on an image there, data centers, mining, a lot of underground mining needs underground ventilation, which always needs to run for safety reasons. South African remote hospital already has a fuel cell with solar and batteries also for backup. It's a really critical backup where uptime is really crucial, and where the import or the transport of diesel rather would be avoided. Next, also we see already some ideas popping up around trucking either platinum group metals from mines. You see also there the big mining truck pilot going on this year in the mine of Anglo American in South Africa, the platinum mine, to really run these big mining trucks on hydrogen, where the hydrogen is made at the mine from solar energy. So solar electricity, not just for the mine, but also to make a fuel for big trucks in the mine. See also already some requests from beverage producers. Next big thing is really we see is clean maritime fuel. Could be hydrogen, could be ammonia, could also be green methanol. And then of course in ports you also have material handling. Also these kind of big forklifts already being trialed in Europe on hydrogen. And last is also really fertilizers, both for domestic markets, especially landlocked African countries, to generate their own ammonia, make their own fertilizer, to really unlock the agricultural potential. And of course, the countries with access to the sea could also export this ammonia, I think, and make fertilizers. I think that's really a great example is here Morocco is fully embarking on that opportunity. So I think that in a nutshell a bit about the African continent, challenges, leapfrogging opportunities, where it could happen, which sectors. But as said, it's not exclusive. There's always popping up something new, which is good. So thanks a lot, audience. Please, if there's some questions coming in, I think there's a little bit of time to address one of them. Otherwise, I would thank you for your attention, and again, thank AFSIA for this great collaboration on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for quite a positive view on the situation, and I feel tempted to play devil's advocate a little bit here, just to push you. I mean, it sounds like there is a lot of potential, a lot of promises, a lot of good elements which are combined. So my question would be, why isn't it there yet? What is missing? What is required to move forward?
That's a very good question. Now, I think yesterday it was also said during the panel. Of course, hydrogen is just an energy carrier, and to make it at low cost, you need low cost green electricity to split water. That's one of the most common methods to make green hydrogen. Obviously, it could also be done with biomass, but that can also have conflict with others. So let's focus on this low-cost green electricity. What I think one of the panelists said from JA Solar, that the amount of green electricity in Africa is not yet at a gigawatt scale. So I think that's the first thing to address, to really scale up, get costs down. I think also really financing costs are really a challenge in Africa that should be really addressed. And then I think we really can sort of materialize this opportunity. So I think that's definitely one of the challenges, which can be overcome, but need to be addressed. Any other question?
Yes. We have received many questions on your presentation, very specific ones. Is the target green hydrogen price $1.50 per kg? Does it consider the water which is provided at no cost, or is there a consideration for additional costs?
Yes, no, that's a very valid question. It was also partly addressed yesterday by one of the experts. I would like to quote him, Thomas Roos from CSIR. The amount of water used to make a kilogram of hydrogen is 9 liters. And with this kilogram of hydrogen, a passenger car could drive 100 kilometers. So the amount of water is actually compared, if you look to supply a city with drinking water or for irrigation, the part which would be used for a full hydrogen economy is just very little just in the range of a few percentages, 1 to 2% compared to all the drinking water used. So the amount is relatively low, which also means the associated cost, even if you desalinate it from seawater, is very low. So this is often seen as a hurdle, but quite a few people looked into this, and it's actually just a relative small part. Nevertheless, in the middle of the desert, there are already some techniques to capture the moisture from the air at night and to split that even into hydrogen. There are already some researchers having looked into that, and even that is possible and would be not such a great cost attribute, so to say.
Thank you very much. And maybe before we move on to the next section with our panel discussion, I would like to ask you one last question, which is actually a combined question from Luca and Nurdin, specifically about Algeria. So Nurdin mentions that Algeria already has a lot of experience in gas production and export to Europe. And that the logical thinking would be that they can build on this to this time export hydrogen. And Luca's question goes in the same way. Is it fair to think that Algeria and also Morocco are better placed than other countries in Africa to actually export green hydrogen to Europe? And then a by question is anybody already producing cheap green hydrogen in Africa?
All very good questions, and I'm very happy to hear those. I think Algeria has more or less the same opportunities as Morocco, apart maybe from the phosphate reserves for fertilizer. But all the countries already having some kind of infrastructure in place which could be reused, and in this case, natural gas pipelines have definitely a benefit. If you already have that and can reuse this, which is possible, you have a benefit, no doubt about it. I see also that Algeria is really focusing on getting more and more solar in place. So if you could combine that close to the already present natural gas pipelines, that's a big opportunity. I think also the Italian gas company SNAM is really focusing on importing hydrogen via those pipelines with North Africa to Europe and use their natural gas grid in Europe to serve their customers with hydrogen. What you see is that a lot of sort of end customers in Europe, which could be then the export markets, are focused on CO2 reduction. So one has to make sure that this hydrogen is really either low CO2 free, and also one adds these certificates of origin. So also that kind of things have to be in place. I think that's maybe enough on that side. Could you maybe just give a recap of the buy question or one of the...
And the buy question was, is anybody already producing
good
right
question.
now?
There are definitely small producers in Africa at thermal power plants for making hydrogen to cool the generators. Of course, that's not being sold. I know, for example, in the past, Egypt and Zimbabwe were in the top five of countries having the biggest electrolyzers worldwide. So it has been done in the past, both at the Aswan Dam and in Zimbabwe in Kwekwe, mostly for fertilizer purposes. And they could benefit by then from very low cost hydropower of around 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour. And by then there was not that much electricity used in those countries. So there was a lot of low cost. So it has been done in Africa, but this has to be this opportunity has to be sort of made aware again. So it's possible. Now you see, I would say, I think the biggest project is the Anglo-American project for now making green fuel for the mining trucks. So that's coming operational this year. So as far as I know, those are the biggest green electricity things, but I could have missed but I think that's now what's happening and was happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for this complete overview of what's going on in the green hydrogen space in Africa, and it's actually a perfect introduction to our next panel. I would actually like